weigh on the bond market. Damian Troisi, New York.
More of these stories at Town Hall.
Full speed into summer, and if you're thinking about buying a home this year, here's what you need to do first. Get pre-qualified, not once you found the house, now before you even start looking. Here's why. In this market, houses sell in days, sometimes hours. The buyers who win aren't the ones with the highest offer. They're the ones already approved, ready to move, with a lender who can actually close. If you're not pre-qualified, you're a week behind. Maybe that house is gone. Well, I want to tell you about Fellowship Home Loans. For over 20 years, my friends Mike and Brian, guys that I've worked with, they've built Fellowship around one thing, getting loans done for real families with unique situations. They use programs and options that typical lenders don't take the time to explore. Down payment solutions that fit the way people actually live. Everything's done in-house, one roof, one team, all with a servant-led mentality. Get pre-qualified today. Go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G or call 800-510-MIKE. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at serenitywealthbiz.com. That's serenitywealthbiz.com.
When decisions matter most, experience isn't optional. As a former SWAT commander, Tim Whitney has led Under Pressure. Today, as Undersheriff and Chief Financial Officer, he helps lead hundreds of employees, manages one of the county's largest budgets, and protects taxpayers with conservative accountability.
I'm Tim Whitney, and I'd be honored to earn your vote. Together we can support responsible growth, strengthen public safety, protect taxpayers, and preserve the character that makes Jefferson County home.
Paid for by friends of Tim Whitney. Heather Missy, Treasurer.
Dozens of out-of-state law firms are crashing into St. Louis trying to get your business. My advice, rely on a hometown firm. Under Law has been here for years. There are lawyers raising their families right alongside yours. And when you're injured by someone's careless actions, you are entitled to full compensation. You want lawyers who will not bend to big insurance, but will stand defiantly protecting you. Under Law, O-N-D-E-R, underlaw.com. Under wins.
When Donald Trump needs conservative votes to help pass his agenda for Missouri, Representative Trisha Burns never answers the call. Trisha Burns has missed 370 votes. Burns is bucking President Trump's priorities. Burns did not vote to stop DEI initiatives, prevent China from owning Missouri land, defund Planned Parenthood, and Burns did not vote to ban boys from girls' sports. Trisha Burns not showing up for Missouri and President Trump. Instead, Trisha Burns spends her time pulling pranks on the Suicide Prevention Hotline. Yes, you heard that right. Trisha Burns lied to the police and staged a fake suicide emergency. She sent a series of messages to the hotline and said she, quote, had a gun to her head, end quote. When she got caught, she said there'd be no consequences because she's a politician. By August 4th, vote to show Trisha Burns that there are consequences to being bad at your job.
Let's Go Brandon PAC paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Chris Foss, Treasurer.
News Talk STL. This hour of the Allman Report brought to you by STL Fenceworks, celebrating 50 years of industry-leading service for fence, deck, and leisure space solutions. Visit stlfenceworks.com.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 3 Martini Lunch on a fancy Friday. It is the Allman Report on News Talk STL, and let's get right to this handsome-looking man there on your Facebook screen. His name is Judge Andrew Napolitano, ladies and gentlemen. Haven't talked to him in a long time. He's been super busy, not only with Judging Freedom, but he's all over the Newsmax stations, everything else, filling us in on what's going on. Judge Napolitano, first of all, thank you for the generosity of your time. How have you been?
Well, Jamie, thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure, my dear friend. And it has been too long, and that's my fault, not yours.
Well, it's always good news. That means you're busy, and that's how things go. And so when we catch up, and this is one of those days and times. And, of course, perfect time because we have so many questions, really, about some of the mechanics of the Dr. Fauci pardon and what happens with anything related to contempt charges down the line. So can you walk us through exactly what the deal is with not only pleading the fifth, but how it relates to the pardon and what's the future look like for possible charges?
Well, this is a very unusual situation because when you accept a pardon, believe it or not, you can reject a pardon. I never heard of anybody rejecting one, but you can. When you accept a pardon, you give up your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent over the behavior that was pardoned. Now, in the old days, a pardon was for a specific crime for which you were convicted. But President Biden chose, and other presidents have done the same, President Trump has, President Biden chose a prophylactic pardon, that is a pardon before any charges were filed. So that means that whatever behavior Dr. Fauci engaged in that could in any way implicate criminal activity, he does not have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent about. So, in my opinion, his invocation of the Fifth Amendment was inappropriate the other day. It was very frustrating to watch this. Was inappropriate and groundless. Now, the flip side of this is, if the committee, and I don't want to be critical of Senator Paul. First of all, he's a longtime family friend. And secondly, I thought him raising this and bringing Dr. Fauci in was an act of great political courage, which served a profound need. Had Dr. Fauci answered questions, there were so many unanswered questions still 5 years after the pandemic about what the government knew and when it knew it. However, if the committee was truly serious about wanting him to answer questions, if this was a legal proceeding and not a political one, they would have dispatched lawyers during the hearing to federal court to get a determination that he does not have a Fifth Amendment right because he gave it up when he accepted the pardon, and get a federal judge to order him to answer. Now, they did not do that. Instead, they let this charade go on for about 3 hours, and now they say they're going to hold him in contempt of Congress and ask the Department of Justice to prosecute him. Well, contempt of Congress, there are two contempts of Congress. There's civil contempt, which unless you're a lawyer, because it can damage your license. If you're not a lawyer, civil contempt is really nothing. It's a political act. But criminal contempt, if the DOJ prosecutes him, then a federal judge will have to decide, can you be prosecuted for invoking a right guaranteed under the Fifth Amendment, or did he waive that right? So that's where we are right now. We don't know anything more about what Dr. Fauci knew or what the federal government knew. We just know that he didn't want to answer it, and I wish that President Biden had not pardoned him.
Well, I'll tell you, Judge, you and I must have been tracking pretty much the same regarding the preemptive action that Senator Paul and some of the others could have taken. My assumption is that they probably could anticipate that maybe he was going to invoke the Fifth, and then you will want to be prepared to immediately or already have the paperwork to either pursue contempt or compel to answer the questions, and they didn't do that. I can't figure out why.
Well, they don't have a cause of action until he invokes the Fifth. He announced he was going to invoke the Fifth about a half an hour before the hearing started. But you're right, they could have had paperwork ready and lawyers at the courthouse. The committee has a team of lawyers. All they had to do was add an additional last-minute affidavit saying I was present at the hearing and Dr. Fauci invoked the Fifth on every question except his name. Now, I know that some of the senators asked him questions that clearly could have answered, particularly one of the senators, I think it was Senator Hawley from Missouri. What color is your necktie?
Right.
Now, Senator Hawley is a lawyer, and he knows that if Dr. Fauci did answer truthfully about the color of his necktie, that really would have waived the privilege. When you assert the privilege, you have to assert it for everything except your name. If you answer a question, then you have waived the privilege. That's to prevent witnesses from cherry picking which questions they want to answer, which questions they don't want to answer.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know about that level of gamesmanship that was going on at that particular time. It's very interesting. And I guess in the end, so I'm hearing people talking about, well, let's go ahead then and test the pardon. So does that happen? You can go ahead and charge somebody and then see what happens with the pardon?
Well, it's not going to affect the pardon. The pardon's valid. It's going to affect whether the acceptance of the pardon waived his Fifth Amendment rights. I mean, lawyers have always believed that, but I don't know of any appellate case law on this. I haven't looked, but it's the type of thing that I would probably know about. So that issue, can you be criminally prosecuted for invoking a constitutional privilege, or did you waive the constitutional privilege when you accepted the pardon? That issue is going to be resolved one way or another by a federal judge in Washington, D.C. if the Senate refers this to the DOJ and if the DOJ decides to prosecute.
Right.
Now, put aside Todd Blanche and his issues, I think the DOJ will decide to prosecute because it'd be a very popular prosecution. Fauci has become a serious adversary of the president, and I think they will do it, and that will test the issue, and a federal judge will rule, and then the District of Columbia Court of Appeals will rule. And maybe it'll go to the Supreme Court. I don't know.
Yeah, well, very interesting, because, I mean, I guess technically if he didn't go ahead and invoke the Fifth, if he can't invoke the Fifth, then he would be subject to at least some form of deposition or something, I would imagine, then, as a result of any kind of action on the part of the DOJ.
Well, if the DOJ indicts him, there is no deposition. They can't.
Oh, right.
They can't take anything from him, because then he clearly has a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent if he's a criminal defendant.
Right.
But the issue will be, did he waive his Fifth Amendment right when he accepted the pardon? The pardon is silent on the Fifth Amendment. But think about it. The whole purpose of the right to remain silent is so that you don't incriminate yourself. If you have been insulated from prosecution, then it's impossible to incriminate yourself, and therefore you don't have the right to remain silent. That's the argument that Senator Paul's or the committee's lawyers would probably make, Jamie.
Yeah. Okay, and then I guess there's also, at some level, it's already kind of happening in Florida, where you have an attorney general who is pursuing perhaps some charges at the state level. And my assumption is that if Joe Biden had given a pardon, the pardon is broad, right? It just doesn't cover federal charges. It can cover state ones too, right?
No, the pardon only covers federal charges.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the state crimes, excuse me, Dr. Fauci could have committed. The state and federal law are, the basis for state and federal law are different. He would have to show, this attorney general in Florida would have to show minimum contacts with the state, that Fauci was physically present in the state or somehow violated a Florida state law. I don't know. I don't know where Dr. Fauci lives or what his relationship is with Florida or why this Florida Attorney General is trying to do this. But the pardon only covers federal crimes.
Gotcha. Well, I guess if the state can maintain some kind of harm or damage as a result of Fauci's actions, maybe that's how they're going to do it. We'll just have to see how that happens, Judge. And so I mean I think it's happened before where states have gone after people on the federal level because they've been harmed by the actions of those people. But you'd probably have a high bar in terms of proof and everything else. But I think they're going to go for it anyway.
Well, you have to prove contact with the state, or you have to prove that he caused harm in the state. I don't know. Maybe they're going to say that it's hard for me to conjure it. I mean, the statute of limitations on these crimes is 5 years. I suppose something was still going on 5 years ago. It's hard to tell exactly when the pandemic ended, so we're really speculating here, Jamie. I don't know what the state's argument is.
Yeah, and I guess finally, Judge, a couple of people are wondering, so if we go back to the pardon and then the idea that the pardon was signed with an auto pen, where are we on the auto pen question?
Well, the auto pen has been used by every president since it was invented by, can you fill in the blank? Thomas Jefferson.
Oh, wow. Jefferson invented the auto pen?
Yes. Jefferson got tired of signing his name so many times, and he invented the auto pen. It was a very rudimentary auto pen by today's standards, but enabled him to sign one piece of paper and simultaneously sign 3 others.
Wow.
Moreover, every president has used the auto pen, including Donald Trump. So the fact that Biden may have used an auto pen, in my view, does not, and I know Fauci's unpopular, and I share the public perception of him.
Yeah.
Even though we once had a conversation, you ready for this? What said to him, "What's your favorite Italian food?" And he said to me, "Rigatoni bolognese." That is one of my favorites. That's a certain type of Italian pasta with red sauce, with meat in the sauce. I couldn't get over it. Now, aside from that little personal conversation that I had with him, I share the public's animosity toward him.
Yeah. But, at some point, it's true. I mean, but I'm glad you mentioned that regarding the auto pen because it makes sense now, to a certain degree. And because there's so many questions out there. And obviously with the all different forms of commentary and commentators and formats and things like that, people are getting just bombarded with all kinds of different information. So it's always nice for you. I think I have called you before the Thresher. And I think you are. That's exactly what you are to the farm implement that kind of just cuts through it all and separates the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. Yeah, that's how it works. But you're always so valuable to us, Judge Napolitano. How is judging freedom going?
Oh, very well.
Good.
Very, very well. We'll probably have by Christmas time 125 million views. That's a pretty good number.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That is crazy. Well, good for you. Congratulations. It's great to catch up with you again. Sounds like you're traveling, so safe travels to you and continued blessings to you, my friend, Judge Napolitano.
Right back at you, Jamie. This morning when I got your email, I was thinking of that blizzard.
Oh, yeah.
In which we met. I don't even remember when that was. It must have been about 20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it was around that 2007, 2008 time, and you were trapped in St. Louis, and so I continued trapping you into the studio, and it was great. It was fun. So it was our first meeting.
It was.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. And
Thank you, my man. All the best to you.
Yes, sir. And by the way, I wanted to let you know, because I know we talk a lot about Cardinal Burke and everything else, and we've got a beautiful church here in St. Louis called St. Francis de Sales. It's now an oratory, and they specifically do the Latin Mass, the traditional Mass. Canon Coggeshall is the guy who is mostly the guy who is doing the Masses there. A nice guy, know him, and of course I was reminded that there is the Cardinal has a canon who is also his assistant there too. So it's a really interesting little order they have there where they have the canons. But I was thinking about you, and someday when you come to St. Louis, we'll go and visit.
To hear that. You have a major Catholic event coming up, I believe in September in St. Louis, which is the beatification of Archbishop Fulton Sheen.
Yeah. That's a big...
Unfortunately, the Pope did not assign Cardinal Burke to preside at that Mass. He assigned I'll hold my fire on this guy because he's the opposite of Cardinal Burke. And that is Cardinal Fernandez. But Cardinal Fernandez is the one who will be presiding at that beatification.
Wow, that's interesting, especially since he was passed over. But we'll see how it all goes, and I'll report back to you on how it does all go, my friend.
Yes, Jamie. God bless you.
Right.
All the best.
God bless you, too. That's Judge Andrew Napolitano, ladies and gentlemen. And I forgot about that thing that's happening there in St. Louis. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, we got our answers, and so thank you, Judge. Appreciate that so much. All right, coming up, we'll give you an update on what's happening in Spain. They're now sending in troops to keep these people out. As I told you yesterday, I believe it was a purposeful introduction, and I can explain that. Also, we're going to go back in time. You guys remember the swine flu and the swine flu vaccine and all that other mother jazz? Well, I've got a little blast from the past on that one. And also, Kamala Harris decides she's going to move into an all-white neighborhood. So much for DEI and all that other stuff these liberals talk about. This is Common Sense Radio. Happy Fancy Friday to all of you and yours. It's the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new app.
And listen anytime, anywhere.
Republican Chris Sander is the true fiscal conservative running for state representative. Chris Sander says it's time to stop Travis Wilson giving away hundreds of millions of dollars in state tax credits to special interests, billions of tax dollars given away to private developers of empty office buildings in St. Louis and sports stadiums in Kansas City. Chris Sander will work to bring our tax dollars home to St. Charles. We need a representative in our corner, not another lobbyist for St. Louis or Kansas City. Please vote for Chris Sander, Republican for state representative, the true fiscal conservative.
Paid for by Sander for Missouri. Patricia Van Dyne, Treasurer.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 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 John Bill.
What makes Stifel different? Financial advisors come first, with the independence to do what's right for clients and the support to build lasting success. That's why Stifel was named #1 overall in employee advisor satisfaction among investment firms by J.D. Power. Stifel, where success meets success. For J.D. Power 2026 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
I want to share something with you. Cooking a pizza using coal creates an amazing pizza. Only one place to get it, Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. Of course, they offer a wide variety of pasta, but you just visit the website napolistl.com, dine in or take out, and get ready for patio season. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield Valley. Try it. You can thank me later.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
If I've told you once, I've told you 111 times. That sets the stage for what I'm about to do. I'm going where no man wants to go, no sane man nor woman. I'm going inside Dr. Fauci's mind. Warning, this might not be suitable for any age. This might trigger you. Here we go. Buckle up. In front of the U.S. Senate Committee, Dr. Fauci asked questions on every time he answered, "I'm taking the Fifth Amendment on the advice of counsel." He didn't really need to even hear the question. He already had an answer. He was not going to answer anything. On the advice of counsel, I'm taking the Fifth Amendment. What was Dr. Fake thinking each time he took the Fifth and wanted to be hit with another question? He, again, really did not need to hear any of the questions. He already had the answer. On the advice of counsel, 111 times. But inside his brain, what was happening? Was he recounting all the money he made during COVID, which was hurting you? Was he devising new ways to spread another virus? Was he... wait, I'm sorry. I cannot continue this exercise. It's just too damn scary.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
The Allman Report, sponsored by Window World, 800 Get Windows.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
On my way to work in the morning.
Usually I'm in the car.
I listen on the app in my car every morning going to work.
Download the News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere. Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Common Sense Radio. It's a fancy Friday, and it's the Allman Report and the 3 Martini Lunch, everybody. Good afternoon. Jamie Allman here and Johnny over there on the guitar. Elizabeth Kaiser is going to be joining us from Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kaiser, always on Sundays at 8 o'clock. She'll be here around 12:40 to fill us in on all the stuff that's going on, including some crazy stuff going on with Anthropic and DeepSeek and all these kind of, I don't know, they always choose the words that sound so menacing and spooky and weird. I don't know why they do that, but they do. And maybe that's just the nature of the beast. Maybe it's actually not the words as opposed to just what's behind them. I don't know. I have no idea. All right, this is great. Sometimes these little reels come across Facebook, and they're kind of fun. They're kind of entertaining. And then I'll keep you up to date on Kamala Harris moving into an all-white neighborhood and all that other stuff. But, and also, did you see the WNBA? These chicks are bragging on the internet about betting on their games. And it was, of course, quickly deleted. And I think these ladies are probably going to be suspended. And all I can think about is, oh, what a bummer, you know. We have Pete Rose still sitting there just because he bet on his own team, by the way, to win. He wasn't betting against his team. But anyway, we'll follow up on that in just a little bit. Anyway, this is a little test that was being done. So that it opens with this guy. Here's a scenario. It opens with this guy who is essentially filling a cup of water with a hose. And then they proceed to start doing kind of these man on the street things where they are acting like it's a new water product, even though it's just water from a hose. It's hilarious. Oh, here, let me turn this down real second here, quick. There we go.
Erewhon's new $12 Sacred Water. Do you want to give it a try?
Yeah, I would love to. Wow.
So they're calling it Erewhon's Sacred Water, $12 Sacred Water, and it's like 12. They're saying it's $12, and of course it's just water from a hose.
That's like the freshest water I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah, this is really good.
Do you drink a lot of water normally? Can you tell us?
I'm a big water drinker. Wow. It's very, crisp, very clean.
It's filling up my whole mouth, and so I love it. I'm so dry.
Does normal water fill up your whole mouth normally?
No.
It just tastes like it was extra care put into it, as opposed to just putting some water inside of a bottle and putting a label on top of it.
And then they're showing the pictures of the water coming out of the hose as the guy's talking about how it seems like they put extra care into it. Yeah.
Do you feel it in different parts of your body?
My legs.
Tasting a little bit of honey, a little bit of hibiscus, I think.
We wrapped it. Being able to smell it, I can smell the nuttiness a little bit, and then I can sense the avocado. I'm not gonna lie.
Vanilla-ish, very strong presence to it.
I'd say a little bit cucumber vibe.
I feel like I'm getting a little bit of the mouthfeel of oatmeal. It's a little bit weightier than just regular water.
People are such liars, man. It's so funny. And I guess when you look at the man on the street things, because you see these all the time as testimonials and all that kind of stuff. It's really crazy.
It's hugging the tongue. This is cool. I enjoy drinking wine, but I've never tasted water in the same way. So
This is the one I just took on my hike with me, and it just doesn't taste as good.
Would you pay $12 for it?
Oh, hell yeah.
I would definitely pay $12 for this, for sure.
For sure I'd pay $12 for this. Are you kidding?
$12 Sacred Water they're selling it as, or they're promoting it as it's right from a hose.
Maybe closer to 10.
It's the best water I've tasted since I've tasted everything. Fiji, all the different type of waters, H2O, core water. This is really
Have you ever had water from a hose?
I grew up that way.
How does this compare to the water you grew up with?
Way different. The pH is different.
What if we told you that this was water from a hose? What would you say to us?
I wouldn't believe you.
Well, it's water from a hose.
No, it's not.
It is.
I need what's the pH on this? Ah, you got me. Boy, y'all good, boy. I should have known better than that.
That's hose water.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Hose water? Are y'all serious right now? What? Is that even healthy? Is that even allowed?
Do you still think it tastes better than regular water?
Tastes fresh and good to me.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how it goes. Now, so this kind of dovetail into a story I've told you before, but maybe if you're new to the game, then yeah. So my dad and I were in a commercial together. We were in Florida, and this was 1974 or something like that. I think it was probably I was 11 or something like that. And we were down in Florida vacationing, and my dad and I were at a shopping center, and I can't. First of all, I can't figure out why it was cool enough. It must have been on spring break or something, but we never really went on vacation on spring break. That was for rich people. But we were down in Florida, and he had on his black leather coat, so it must have been cool there for some reason or what have you. I still have that black leather coat that he says wears like iron, and believe me, it does. It's 40 pounds. This coat is. It's really cool, and I happen to be fortunate to have it. Anyway, we're down in Florida, and suddenly we get accosted by these guys who look like a bunch of hippies, and they have the microphones, the big boom mics and cameras and stuff like that. And then there's this guy who has a coat and tie on or whatever, And this was the beginning of the Quaker 100, the natural cereal, 100% natural cereal. That was the first time that actually granola cereal hit the market, was around 1974. It was Quaker Oats 100% natural cereal. And so they were doing testimonials. They were having people try them, try these. And my dad and I were two of the people that were trying them. There was a bunch of other people they went around to. And so I tasted it. And I was like, it's good, And my dad had this great line, and they used it. It was, most cereals taste like cardboard, but this one tastes pretty good. And so we waited forever. I actually had to wind up joining the Screen Actors Guild in order to get paid, and my dad did too. And it was like a year went by, and my mom was like, "You guys are never gonna. This is never gonna go on TV, whatever." And I go, "Maybe it will. Maybe it will." And then next thing you know, a year later, it winds up on TV. It gets on television like a year later. This was 1975 or something. I don't know. Maybe still 1974. It seemed like a year. And we finally got paid too. And I'll never forget. I think I got like $2,700, which was a lot of money during that period of time. I would think in 1974, $2,700 was kind of a big deal, And so I'll never forget. I don't know whatever happened to all the money, but I do know that I was able to buy a stereo with it, and I bought an electrophonic console stereo. Like it was like the coolest damn thing. And here I was, just a kid, And that by that time I was probably 12, 13, maybe 12. But I was able to buy this because it aired, and then we didn't get paid until after it aired, so it took a little while. But finally got the money, and I bought this electrophonic stereo that I think the first record I ever played on it was probably either Bachman Turner Overdrive or Journey. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, I bought a stereo with it, so that was pretty cool. But we didn't lie or anything like these people are, Oh, that was funny. So hey, listen. And I can't, for the life of me, I tried to find the commercial, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I see other ones from that era, including this kid in the swimming pool, all that kind of stuff. I even called the ad agency, and whatever. I tried to run this thing down. I know it's still out there someplace, but I did try to Google it and all that kind of stuff and couldn't find it. But I know it's somewhere. Maybe now, with the way things have progressed, maybe it's easier to find on the internet. I don't know. So that's kind of crazy. All right. Anthropic went nuts, apparently, and hacked into some businesses and apparently downloaded a bunch of books and erased them. Something's going on, and Elizabeth Kaiser will be in to tell us all about it in just a little bit. It's Common Sense Radio. It's a fancy Friday. It's the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
It is awesome.
And listen anytime.
Love the News Talk STL app.
Anywhere.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hanson's Tree Service, hansonstree.com. And, of course, we all know, and the First Alert people over there have told us that things could get a little bit wily here in St. Louis with the storms that we're having, so keep an eye out for that. But the other end of this is you're going to hopefully, and I hope it doesn't happen, but you're gonna see perhaps maybe some end result of not deadwooding and pruning. And so you're going to see some branches maybe coming down and all this kind of stuff. And that's not good because, as I told you earlier, last time we had a storm, a branch came down on my front lawn, and that baby was a beast. That thing if that had landed on anybody, a person, it would have killed him, and a car, it would have crunched it. So you got to get that taken care of. That was from a healthy tree. So deadwooding and pruning is super important, and not only vital to the health of your trees, but the well-being of all of you at the house as well. Also, as we get into, I know it's only, we still have a month of August, right? A month of summer left over, but fall planting is starting to kind of work into people's plans, and we have the magic bean for you at Hanson's Tree Service, which is a composting mixture, which is a great, great way to grow all of your plants and your shrubs as well. And you can order a batch of it online. Same with the mulch. They have all different kinds of colors, all different kind of cuts as far as, whether you like the chunky type or the feathery type, whatever it is, they have all those different kinds of options for you. You can order that online at hansonstree.com. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, let's not forget about the tree takedown. Sometimes it's just time, and that's happened before with me, and it'll happen before with you with Hanson's Tree Service, and they will finance any kind of tree takedown for you. You don't want to sit there and say, just because you can't do the outlay right now, and they're still the least expensive you're going to find anywhere in the land. But you don't want to simply keep a tree up that should be coming down, because ultimately, if it comes down your house or whatever, you don't want that. So they want to make it easy for you. You can finance it with Hanson's Tree Service, hansonstree.com.
Steve Allman leads. Allman enacted a data center moratorium. He doubled our parkland, built new roads, prioritized safe schools and streets, eliminated the county's real property tax. Allman for St. Charles County. Bill Eigel misleads. Eigel talks but didn't pay his property taxes, but voted to give tax credits to the company behind the St. Charles Data Center, and was rebuked by Trump's lawyer for scamming donors.
Paid for by the committee to elect Steve Allman, Michael Summer Jr., Treasurer.
Are you tired of hard chlorinated water drying your skin out, tasting bad, and ruining your fixtures? Jones Air and Water Treatment has a solution to this pollution. Our Hydratech H2O leaves you with great tasting soft water at all fixtures in your home with one unit. Call Jones Air and Water at 636-899-1040 or visit us on the web at joneswater.com. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Jones Air and Water, 636-899-1040 or joneswater.com on the web. Call us now.
When Donald Trump needs conservative votes to help pass his agenda for Missouri, Representative Trisha Burns never answers the call. Trisha Burns has missed 370 votes. Burns is bucking President Trump's priorities. Burns did not vote to stop DEI initiatives, prevent China from owning Missouri land, defund Planned Parenthood, and Burns did not vote to ban boys from girls' sports. Trisha Burns not showing up for Missouri and President Trump. Instead, Trisha Burns spends her time pulling pranks on the suicide prevention hotline. Yes, you heard that right. Trisha Burns lied to the police and staged a fake suicide emergency. She sent a series of messages to the hotline and said she, quote, had a gun to her head, end quote. When she got caught, she said there'd be no consequences because she's a politician. By August 4th, vote to show Trisha Burns that there are consequences to being bad at your job. Cut the Bull PAC paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
Travis Wilson here, State Representative of District 106 in St. Charles, Missouri's first state capital. As a 31-year resident of St. Charles County, I know the issues that are important to our residents, such as protecting women's sports, stopping harmful procedures on minors, and fighting the woke agenda. As your representative, I know what it takes to bring new opportunities to our community to ensure our children have a brighter future. It's been the honor of a lifetime for my family and me to represent you, and I humbly ask for your vote again on August 4th.
Paid for by Wilson for St. Charles. Merle Schneider, Treasurer.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Capistrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too. On Manchester at McKnight and Rock Hill, and now in Creve Coeur on Olive, just 1 mile west of 270.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The House is on recess. We'll ask Dr. and Congressman Bob Onder if Dr. Fauci perjured himself this week at 4:20.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL. The Allman Report. Sponsored by Schneider's True Value. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Common Sense Radio. It's a Fancy Friday, and it's the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Phil Valencia saying the average price of a new car in 75 was $4,800, so I had half that. I bought a stereo for like $300, and I think my dad bought a 66 Olds with the rest. I don't care, though. I was only 11 or 12. I didn't need the money, so whatever. Good afternoon, everyone. So, I don't know. Did you see Tallarico? Oh, you want to come on in? You want to do it now? Okay. You want to come in now? All right, come on, dear. Elizabeth Kaiser just coming in. Looks like you got wet out there. We could do 1 o'clock if you want to just chill for a second. That's okay.
That's awesome.
You want to?
I can do either. I'm totally ready, totally flexible.
Okay, well, I just want to give you let's go. Let's do it now.
1 o'clock.
Okay, 1 o'clock? All right, sure. Go on out, grab a cup of coffee, and I'll just kind of... Okay, that sounds good. All right, you're welcome. Yeah, we were supposed to be on. She was late because she was at the bank fighting a charge that she didn't agree with that she got when she was over in France and Paris. It's always something, That she walks in, it looks like she got rain dumped on and everything else. So that's just the way it goes. Life in America. All right, you guys know that James Tallarico, all these people, this is all kind of coming back to haunt people now, as you're seeing all these examples of all the people who worshipped Dr. Fauci and everything else. And, of course, Dr. Fauci and Tallarico, and it was pretty embarrassing as it relates to Tallarico, because he had actually a Fauci action figure that he tweeted out and bragged about how he had a Fauci action figure, and there really was one real-life action figure of Dr. Fauci. This is so pathetic, so embarrassing, the way people just worship this guy. And now, of course, because they are so embarrassed, they're deciding to go in the exact opposite direction that this whole week went, and that is acting as if Fauci was somehow ambushed by Republicans, and none of what he did was true. None of the corrupt things he did, the lies he told, and not only that, the absolute undermining of the safety of the vaccine, which he knew was not going to be safe. Also, of course, lying about the gain-of-function research. You guys know all the charges already. But instead of actually talking about it in a fair way, people all over the internet, as well as on cable TV and the left-wing channels, are all acting as if Fauci is a hero who has been burned by the Republicans. It's just that's the world we kind of live in now, where it's just there's a certain segment of people that'll step outside in daylight and say it's daylight, and then there's half of the other people will step outside and say it's nighttime. It's very frustrating because there's really no semblance of the real truth, because our media is as corrupt as the people like Dr. Fauci and the deep state are. That wasn't always the case, though. I'm going to go back in time here. That just happens to come from 1976, since we're kind of being nostalgic here today, right? And the 1976-1977 swine flu hysteria. Do you remember that? This is a clip from a Detroit television station, and it is Bill Bonds. Bill Bonds is a classic anchor in Detroit. Bill Bonds is a guy, when he wasn't drinking, basically, he would be on the air, and he probably was arrested like 5 times or something. He was on the air, and and if the prompter didn't roll up, he'd sit there and go, "Prompter!" He'd stare right at the, telling people to roll the prompter up. That happens every once in a while, because back in the day, even when I was there, you had a prompter operator, and that person really basically just turned a wheel, and the script went by on the teleprompter so that people could read it. And sometimes if you didn't do it fast enough, or if you accidentally stopped or something, it would screw the anchor up. But rarely did they just call the prompter out in the middle of the show. Bill Bonds didn't care. He's like, prompter? Anyway, here he is reporting on the deaths caused by the swine flu vaccine. Now, do you guys recount in any way, shape, or form, anybody reporting, I'm talking about in mainstream media, on any kinds of deaths that may have been related to the vaccine? Like, they didn't even discuss it. You guys remember back in the day, how often did you go on the internet to some website and see that some 22-year-old kid died suddenly? How many of those instances did you see happening? A lot, right? Young people or a 40-year-old suddenly just dying out of nowhere. That was happening, and it was absolutely noticeable. And yet the denial that went into any kind of problems like myocarditis, anything else, nobody even bothered to explore it. None of these doctors on TV or anything like that. There was something done as it relates to Fox News and some of the doctors there. But for the most part, it was ignored. But back in the day when the swine flu vaccine program, at this point of this report caused 58 deaths, the swine flu vaccine.
Here's a look at what's happening tonight. And what's happening is that the swine flu vaccination program ground to a halt from coast to coast today.
Remember the swine flu scare of 1976? That was the year the U.S. government told us all that swine flu could turn out to be a killer that could spread across the nation.
This is back when 60 Minutes was actually 60 Minutes.
And Washington decided that every man, woman, and child in the nation should get a shot to prevent a nationwide outbreak, a pandemic.
The whole program ground to a halt. There wasn't even a single case of swine flu.
You began to give flu shots to the American people in October of 76.
October 1st.
By that time,
This is the director of the CDC in 1976.
Cases of swine flu around the world had been reported?
There had been several reported, but none confirmed. There were cases in...
None confirmed. Did you ever uncover any other outbreaks of swine flu anywhere in the world?
No.
There was never an epidemic of swine flu, and why it was that the world's most powerful man, with the world's most powerful Department of Health, got it so wrong, we will never know. But it's important to realize that he did get it wrong. And
so now we're looking at the swine flu situation almost the same way we looked at the situation regarding COVID, which was a hyper attraction to the money being made off developing a worldwide vaccine, which is kind of what we talked about when we were doing that Dr. Birx documentary I did a couple days ago, and I was showing you, letting you hear that. But that was a number one priority, aside from ruining Trump's administration and stealing the election of 2020. But the other thing was you're enriching yourself off creating a worldwide vaccine. So apparently that was also behind, although they don't seem to be getting to it here, that was also behind the swine flu epidemic thing.
And that the authorities did get it wrong.
There have been now 12 reported deaths so far, with victims dying just a few hours after receiving those inoculative shots. All of the victims were elderly persons, and all, we are told, died of apparent heart attacks.
Well, 46 million of us obediently took the shot. And now 4,000 Americans are claiming damages from Uncle Sam amounting to $3.5 billion because of what happened when they took that shot. By far the greatest number of the claims, 2/3 of them, are for neurological damage or even death, allegedly triggered by the flu shot.
In the state of Michigan, the state health director, Maurice Reisen, ordered a stop to all swine flu shots after 3 Michigan men died hours after receiving their vaccinations. Health officials estimate that 10,000 Michigan people have already received their shots, and President Gerald Ford told ABC Television News tonight that he intends to get his vaccination.
Do you guys remember I don't remember getting the vaccination. I don't remember having to...
President Ford was going to vaccinate the entire population of America, every man, woman, and child, black, white, and brindle, against a particular type of flu called swine flu. because he'd been advised that there was going to be a huge epidemic that would kill thousands of people.
This virus was the cause of a pandemic in 1918 and 1919 that resulted in over 500,000 deaths in the United States.
Now, people were dropping dead in the buildings where they received their shots. Many others became paralyzed.
One of those who did roll up her sleeve was Judy Roberts. She was perfectly healthy, an active woman, when in November of 1976, she took her shot. 2 weeks later, she says, she began to feel a numbness starting up her legs.
I joked about it at that time. I said, I'll be numb to the knees by Friday if this keeps up.
Yeah, now she's wearing leg braces in this video. Again, do you recall even 60 Minutes bothering to look into the people who were harmed by the COVID shot? There hasn't been even a remote delving into the injuries and deaths. And I got to tell you, I think some of these people ought to be suing the federal government like they did back in the day over the swine flu vaccines. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet, but maybe it should in the wake of the lies that are being revealed with Dr. Fauci and everything else. Maybe that's the way to get some degree of comeuppance over this whole thing. All right, Anthropic AI going nuts. Elizabeth Kaiser bringing us up to date on the other side here.
Are you really set up for the future? I mean, buying a home, putting money away for your kids' college, thinking about retirement. Are you dialed in, or are you just kind of hoping it all works out? That's where Royal Banks of Missouri comes in. They'll actually sit down with you and build a real savings plan that fits your life, not some cookie-cutter approach. Whether it's Roundup savings, money market accounts, or IRAs, they've got the tools. Most importantly, they've got the people to help you use them the right way. And if you run a business, this is big. Their treasury management team helps you stay on top of cash flow, cut down on fraud risk, and simplify your operations so you can focus on growing your business instead of chasing down numbers all day. That's the difference. Local bankers who actually know you and care about your success. Give them a call today, 314-212-1500, or visit royalbanksofmo.com to learn more. Royal Banks of Missouri, investing in our communities one client at a time. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Can you believe politicians nearly doubled state spending since 2019? Yeah, that's twice the rate of inflation.
What do we get for all that extra spending? Nothing.
Yeah, and get this, over 200 loopholes are buried in our tax code, written by lobbyists for wealthy corporations.
Our tax code is rigged against us.
We get taxed on our paycheck, our home, everything we buy.
I guess somebody's got to pay for all that spending.
That's why we need Amendment 5. It puts politicians on a leash.
Forces them to cut taxes and control spending, whether they like it or not.
Amendment 5 closes the loopholes, eliminates income taxes, cuts property taxes, and gives $3,000 a year to average working families.
We decide, not the politicians.
Amendment 5 is the biggest tax cut in Missouri history.
I'm voting yes on Amendment 5. Paid for by Missouri Promise PAC. Mark Ellinger, Treasurer.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. President Trump says his new policies are bringing down the cost of prescription drugs.
We're achieving record discounts on prescription drugs. The prescription drugs were going through the roof for many years, and now we're getting record discounts with price differences of 300, 400, 500, 600%.
And about 2 hours from the close on Wall Street right now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average way up by 227 points, reversing some earlier losses. Same with the NASDAQ. It's back up to about 181 points to the good, and the S&P 500 up by 32 points. Former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump, K.T. McFarland, says there's a little bit of oil and other shipping making its way through the Strait of Hormuz, but not much.
For sure it's not getting as much, but there are three trade routes through the strait. The top one, the northern one, is the Iranian one. There's a middle one, which is not as good, and then there's the Omani coast one, which is where we are escorting ships through. They're turning off their transponders, so there's no real record of them going through.
McFarland told the Salem Radio Network that the U.S. would eventually like to see something like a slow regime change in Iran, something the president hoped would happen early on in the war, but it did not materialize. Doctors learning more about the arrival of a devastating disease in the Americas.
New research says ancient mummy DNA provides firm evidence that European colonization brought smallpox to the Americas. The deadly disease struck Asia and Europe and eventually spread to the Americas, where it killed millions and devastated indigenous populations. Researchers found evidence of smallpox infection from 2 mummified individuals in South America, dating them back to the 16th century. Jason Walker reporting.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline, 800-305-6762. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-305-6762 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. That's 800-305-6762 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-305-6762.
This hour of News Talk STL, brought to you by Window World of St. Louis. For replacement windows, doors, and siding, call 800-GET-WINDOWS. That's 800-GET-WINDOWS. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
A lot of heavy rain around the area and some localized flooding as well this morning. We get a break the early part of the day and then another round of stronger storms and showers rolling through this evening into the late night hours. And some of those could be severe with gusty winds across the area, possibly an isolated tornado. Now we'll see a few showers and maybe a storm or two on Saturday, but less rain, and temperatures are held back by the clouds. Sunday looks like the drier day this weekend. In the First Alert Weather Center, I'm KMOV meteorologist Kent Earhart.
I'm Bill Eigel. I'm a no on data centers. Last year, when a new hyperscale data center was up for a vote in St. Charles City, I'm the only candidate for county executive who stood with you in opposition. Meanwhile, Steve Allman was writing op-eds in support of data centers. In fact, he spent $400,000 of your taxpayer money to identify 6 locations just for data centers in St. Charles County. I'm Bill Eigel, and if you don't want data centers in our county, then I'm asking for your vote on August 4th.
Paid for by Eigel from Missouri. Lisa Borchers, Treasurer.
Hungry at midnight? Craving a home-cooked breakfast at noon? At Gingham's Homestyle Restaurant, we've got ya 24 hours a day. For 35 years, folks have been coming back for our famous fried chicken, bone-in catfish, country fried steak, slow-cooked pot roast, scratch-made pancakes, or a slice of homemade pie. Daily specials and a loyalty rewards program that actually pays off. There's always a reason to come back to Gingham's Restaurant in St. Charles. Skip the wait. Join our wait list on Yelp or at ginghamsrestaurant.com.
Hey, it's Vic. If you have a tree that you think is dead, you can get Roots Plus to remove it for you. Or if you think the tree is savable, or if Roots Plus thinks it's savable, they can save your tree and you keep your cash. Call them and find out what that's all about at 314-440-3662. The crews are great. They get things done. They removed the tree for me, and they did expert work, and I definitely will put my name on their company. So save the tree with Roots Plus LLC. RootsPlusLLC.com.
Have you heard those ads claiming Amendment 4 stops conservative amendments?
That's not true. It actually stops a couple big cities from pushing radical ideas into our Constitution. Remember 2024? Only 8 out of 114 counties voted to allow transgender surgeries on children.
That's terrifying. We can't let just a handful of counties rule the whole state.
Exactly. Amendment 4 requires broad statewide support and keeps foreign money out of our elections. Vote yes on 4 this August 4th.
Paid for by Freedom Principal MO, Missouri First PAC. Kate Sickles, Treasurer.
I think we should be able to have a civil conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Fancy Friday to all of you and yours. This is Common Sense Radio, and it's the 3 Martini Lunch. Just happens to also be the Allman Report, and Jamie Allman here, and Johnny's over there on the timpanis. And, boy, imagine coming over here from Spain, right, to see the World Cup, and then going back to Spain and having all the Moroccans invading your country, and then you're saying, wow, this looks like Minnesota that I saw when I was in the country for the World Cup, because that's what's happening over there, and now they're bringing out troops to keep these people in line. I believe this is totally purposeful, but we'll get into that just a little bit later on. And also, Kamala Harris moves into an all-white neighborhood, so we'll follow up on that as well. And ladies and gentlemen, guess who is here? Her name is Elizabeth Kaiser. She is the host of an awesome show on Sunday nights starting at 8 o'clock, and it's called Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kaiser, and she happens to be in the studio as we speak. How are you?
Great, Jamie.
Good. Well, so I've got a lot to ask you about, but you also have a lot to tell us about. And I'm seeing, first of all, the headlines of today. And some people are just getting around to the story that Elizabeth knew about a couple of weeks ago regarding Anthropic or AI or Claude or whatever, downloading books and erasing them and doing whatever, and now maybe hacking into some systems. So what is this all about?
Yeah, Anthropic is making the headlines every day, every minute, every day. So the story you're talking about came out a couple weeks ago, and apparently what they did is they purchased a lot of these I'm just going by memory, I don't have any notes on this, but they purchased these very old books that were out of copyright. And I think to the tune of 600,000 of these books. I'm not quite sure if I got the number right, but they spliced the spine, and we're talking about physical books.
Who is they?
They, people in Anthropic, and they
the
scanned
staff.
every single page of these out of copyright books, these physical books. And they fed all of this information into these beautiful, very old books, into their RAG, which is their universe of the data that the AI draws from. And apparently, I know that the purpose is to put new information into the universe of all the data and information that AI pulls from, because it's starting to get already a little bit, it's hallucinating. And once AI starts pulling information out of the RAG that's actually AI, there's problems. And so the objective was to put some new, fresh content of these old books into the AI database, which is called a RAG. Apparently, a judge entered a ruling, and they actually rendered a ruling in favor of Anthropic and said that was the appropriate and reasonable use of trade in the AI world. Met a lot of opposition because these authors of these books, and of course, a lot of them are dead, and some of them are alive.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these, people who are protecting the deceased authors as well as the live authors really disagree with the decision, because Joe Allen, who I talk about a lot, he just did a blog on this particular event that you're just describing with the books. And he said to take this beautiful, and I mean, you're a writer yourself, Jamie, you know that, to take this beautiful product of these creators of these books and then just to digitize it and put it into the sludge slop. It's extremely insulting, not to mention it could be definitely a legal infringement on copyright. Even if the copyright is, if it's out of copyright, it's still an ethical issue. So it's extremely controversial.
Yeah.
Extremely controversial. It's called the ISBN, which is some abbreviation for books, DB experiment. But it didn't receive favor hardly with anybody. Definitely not. Now, something else that Anthropic that just did, which is really interesting. Remember this thing that just happened with our friend Sammy Altman with OpenAI, and this little bot that went rogue and escaped the sandbox that we've been talking about. So a lot of these companies now, like Anthropic, competitor of OpenAI, they're looking over their shoulder and they're like, uh-oh, what have we done? Sammy's in the hot box, no pun intended. I better see what we've done. So they hired this company, this third-party auditor. And the name of this third-party auditor is called Irregular, which is, I think, kind of ironic.
Yeah.
And so this company comes in and does an audit of all of these experiments that Anthropic did, just like OpenAI. So they did this post-audit, about 141,000 tests, and they found out that through these exercises, very similar to what Sam did with his agent that escaped the sandbox and went rogue, they found out that actually Anthropic's agents also had escaped the sandbox and went rogue. And Dario, who owns Anthropic, didn't even know it until he just got the results of this audit. And he was like, oops. And so there were multiple events where these agents escaped this fictitious sandbox, which is a fabricated AI architecture where they're supposed to stay within the sandbox, so there's no exploitation into the wild. A lot of these agents actually exploited, and they had access to 3 huge corporations. The news is not naming those corporations. I think that's just something that's very confidential.
Yeah.
And so Dario had to notify those corporations right away. So what they discovered at the end of this post-audit, they discovered that the older models, when this little agent, this bot, no, we call them agents, the AI agent, when they discover they're into the internet, they're into the wild, they keep going. They're rogue, they're wild, they're extremely dangerous and can exploit a lot of things. What AI is doing now, which is to Dario's credibility as well as Sam's, is that new models are now detecting these agents or say, uh-oh, we just broke out of the sandbox, back up. So they're training these agents to back up once they breach the sandbox. And once they get out into the internet, these agents are starting to have this self-audit and recognition and awareness of what they just did.
Yeah.
And they're backing up and they shut down.
So what is the latest then? I'm also hearing about Claude. Did Claude hack into something as well? Some businesses? I'm hearing that happened.
Probably so, but I don't know that story.
Yeah.
I don't know that story. I do know that what's really shaking the tech market, and this is earth-shattering, and it's really shaking the entire tech market, especially investors. We saw just plummet in the tech investments a couple of weeks ago. So China, DeepSeek, all right? DeepSeek is their hallmark frontier model, just like our OpenAI and Anthropic as the analog to China. DeepSeek just came out with a model to where, and I just love this efficiency, and we're emulating this too, but there's a big difference. They came out with a model, DeepSeek, that only uses no less, no more than what it needs to in terms of compute power. So let's just say, Jamie, you and I are trying to figure out where the Bob Almonda's Strait is, and we're doing some geopolitical research, and we give it a very common, kind of a banal query. It's not that deep thinking. And what DeepSeek does now is that their compute only uses first order thinking, first level of the compute. So they're only having to pay a fraction of the cost of what we're having to pay here in these huge data centers. So the way our companies are set up is we turn on the entire machine, we fire it up. The entire machine, even if it's enough power to power New Orleans, with 10 gas-fired turbines, we turn on the entire machine just for a simple query like, where is the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb? And so that is the difference. So China has discovered, and here's the irony here, they've discovered to actually just turn on a part of that compute power. And they're only having to pay just a tiny fraction of what we're having to pay. And the reason they were forced to do that is because we restricted chips.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, we can't beat it with hardware. U.S. just restricted chips. We can't have access to chips. So we're going to beat them on the software. We can't beat them on the hardware because we don't have the chips. We're going to beat them on the software.
Yeah.
So they came up with very, very efficient algorithms in their software architecture to be extremely efficient and only do first order thinking. And you're probably thinking, well, I'm sure we have that technology to do it. So I researched that.
No, actually, you know what I was really thinking?
Yeah.
And then I'll let you finish.
Yeah.
Oh, you gave me this idea, and I was really thinking the next time I have Claude open, I'm going to ask it, what's the frequency, Kenneth?
The frequency you're looking.
That's what I'm going to ask it.
The frequency, Kenneth?
You just gave me that idea.
What is the frequency, Kenneth?
Oh,
oh, she doesn't know.
No, she doesn't know. Well, it's a song.
Okay.
And it is now I forgot the name of the band already. The
REM.
REM.
You just researched and got the answer, didn't you?
What's the frequency?
No, I know that's a great tune.
What's the frequency, Kenneth? And it's based on somebody who walked up to Dan Rather on a street.
Yeah.
And accosted him and said, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?" And so REM. Stipe and all the gang.
Didn't they attempt to shoot him? Or was
I think there was something involved.
Something, to Dan Rather, yeah.
Really? And so they that became a song. It's a great song, by the way. REM's a great band, and oddly enough, and I don't mean to derail this whole
No,
conversation.
I'm having fun
Crazily
with
enough,
this.
my brother Paul wrote a play that appeared off Broadway called "What's the Frequency, Kenneth?" So there we go. But anyway, I still want to know what something like Claude would say if I asked Claude, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?"
Oh, it'd probably have a beautiful answer. But now I don't know if that would be first order thinking or I have
It's just
no
when
idea.
you were talking about asking that one.
Yeah, I know.
that
And there
one
was a
thing
like dead silence when you just said that, Jamie. I'm like, I didn't know how to answer that. And you did. But yeah, I was like, I don't know what the frequency Kenneth is. I don't know if you were calling me Kenneth or what.
No.
But, and so our companies, of course, have stepped up to the plate. Your Anthropic and your OpenAI and all of the XAI, which is Elon Musk's AI company. So we've stepped up to the plate. We said, okay, we need to look under the hood. We need to be efficient too. We need to employ and only pay for no less, no more than what Jamie Allman's querying, right? How simple is your query? You shouldn't fire up the entire machine if you have what's the capital of Ohio? Now, if you're talking about something that's really deep and very esoteric and arcane and cerebral, that's a different story. That's like third order thinking. Then you got to fire up a little bit more of the machine. So we've learned how to do that. And actually, our companies have done that first. Here's the reason why China's so much more efficient, though. Is because they're open source and they've learned to do it for a fraction of the cost. We've already built all of this hardware, these huge 6 square acre data centers, like just going up Meta's building in Louisiana, which is another story. And it's behind these expensive paywalls. And so the cost to do that, it's already baked in, it's already built in, and we can't back up.
Yeah.
And so that's why the tech, the holdings in the tech market a couple of weeks ago started plummeting. Because we're figuring like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? We can't be as efficient, and we can't save the gazillions of dollars just using part of the machine like China's doing. Right. So we're going to see that. I mean, we always catch up with technology, but that is something really interesting.
Is China ahead of us in this technology, or do we even know?
In terms of efficiency, I can pretty confidently anyway, answer that in terms of efficiency, they've got us beat. In terms of performance and results, Jamie, I think that's a different question. I don't know in terms of performance and results, but the way they're approaching AI is they are on a very microcosm level. They're embedding AI at a very microcosm level. And they're not really building these huge, huge data centers. And they're only using no less, no more of the compute power, depending on how simple your query is. And I just think that's ingenious. So they're approaching it in a totally different way. And I do know that they've been working on it in terms of the race. It really comes down to ROI. I mean, where the rubber meets the road is, are you going to be able to make any money off of it?
Yeah.
I mean, we know companies fail left and right every single day, and some companies never launch because if you can't make a profit, then you're pretty much dead in the water.
Right,
and I think
right.
that's the end all be all right now, is can we make a profit off of all these data centers? And that's an entirely other story.
Yeah, I think you can. I also think you can off of AI. And this is probably interesting to you. I had a conversation with my Uber driver, and I really, actually, that's one of my favorite parts of Uber driving is, or being a passenger at least, is talking to these drivers who come from all over the place, and all kinds of different origins. They are. Occasionally, they don't speak English, so you don't have a conversation with them. But otherwise, this person, and he was an average, everyday guy who worked his way, even in radio at one point. But he had an interesting comment about AI, and it was tracking with what I have said all along, is that you can either be taken over or eaten alive by AI, or it can take your job or do whatever, or you can adapt to it like a lot of people do with new technologies and new endeavors and new inventions, and find a way to make money off of it or find a way to do whatever. And I think that there are a lot of people who are just simply surrendering to this idea that AI is going to devour all these jobs and everything else. But, American ingenuity is a proven thing. And so you can do it. You can rework it. You can find a way to be opportunistic about AI as opposed to being fearful and even run over by it.
And the way I use it, Jamie, and it's going to be on my show this Sunday, I go into a deep dive, and this is where I really use AI. And I use all the LLMs together, the Claude, the Groks, and Gemini is really my go-tos. Gemini is always my first go-to. But what I did is a deep dive on the geopolitical and the geographical logistics of this maritime straits of all these passageways over in the Middle East. I had fun doing it. I couldn't have done that without AI. I was asking, what is the miles? What's the nautical miles between Bosphorus Strait with the Bab el-Mandeb Strait? What is the nautical miles? What are the restrictions? What the narrowest point of the strait is? What are the restrictions? The weakest link? I said, well, we can't use commercial carriers because of this, because of that. I was asking all these questions, but then I know how to work it. We're all very good researchers in the field that we work in. And that is where AI is I'm thinking if I didn't have AI, I don't think I could have got that detailed information.
Yeah.
And then that spurred, I made a map. I was just telling the two of you before I got on the air, made a map of all these straits and the 5 straits that are choke points in the Middle East and the MENA, the MENA theater. And what this could mean to the world economy and where we're vulnerable and all this, and made a map. And I made a map using AI.
Yeah. And that actually got us into a conversation even off air just about maps in general. I was talking about how we used to get National Geographic at the house when I was growing up.
Magazine.
And they always had a map in there. And my mom would take the maps out and eventually had enough maps where she basically wallpapered my room when I was a kid with maps from National Geographic, and it was really cool. So I grew up with maps all around me. Then we got into this whole thing about the triptych from AAA and traveling and how it used to be really cool to have a map in your hand, not one that had to spread out all over your lap, but a triptych that was kind of a short little thing, and you could flip it page by page, and whoever put the thing together would use an orange highlighter and do the road that you're supposed to be on. And it was very, very cool and very, very simple. And yet that technology, I think it's kind of cool to have in terms of the triptych and everything else. But the technology that we have now is easier and it's not as entertaining necessarily as a triptych would be.
Right.
But it's also not as flustering as that would be. And that's the benefit, again, as we speak to technology, sometimes giving us things that are really super amazing, super dynamic, and in many ways, really super educational. I find your story about learning about all the different straits, I can just see you, kind of mapping this out.
I loved it.
But, on your stand-up little easel there that you were doing. But what I'm saying is what you just indicated is that you were able to learn something that would have otherwise taken hours, maybe even days,
all the time.
Minutes.
That's right. And back to your point about maps, that experience that you were just describing with the maps on your wall, and we learned so much about direction. But there's something even more important than that, because we love maps. And I know you and I love maps. We love globes. We both have the same globe, and that's so cool. I was looking at my globe this morning and looking at all the straits. That also makes you adventurous. And so just a couple of weeks ago, I turned my airplane mode off to save on international fees. Hey, AT&T hits you hard for international fees if you forget to turn the airplane mode on. So I turned it on when I would leave my little house in the village when I was taking my sabbatical writing my book. And I'm a runner, so I would jog every night, and I wouldn't know how to get back to the house, but I could hear the church bells, and I could see the village in the distance, and I would be on a trail, and my instinct would tell me, where to go.
Yeah.
And it just fuels your sense of adventure.
Yep.
And it was just a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And if I would have been looking at my phone the entire time, I would not have had that experience.
Well, that's kind of the way people lived before we had clocks and calendars and things like that. In fact, I was just reading something the other day about birthdays, and I didn't know that birthdays were kind of a modern thing that started around the late 1800s, because before the late 1800s, people really actually didn't know when their birthday was.
Interesting.
Because it wasn't recorded, and it wasn't this, it wasn't that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people actually didn't know when their birthday was.
I could see that, because it's not as significant back then.
Right, and you just had it by instinct, maybe, or whatever, but much like a lot of the Native Americans did, they had to judge everything by the angle of the sun or the traveling of the water or the seasons or what have you, and finally kind of got used to it. And you expressed those similar instincts when you were running. And back to the triptych really quickly. The triptych was actually a technological advancement in itself over the map that mom had to spread on her lap, and dad would yell at her because she couldn't find anything on there and whatever. So it cut down all the arguments, and it was an advancement in itself, the triptych was. So sometimes advancements come very simply and maybe not electronically, but clearly what you're talking about is an advancement.
Remember the MapQuest? Remember the MapQuest? And it was so exciting when they added to add a trip, so you could add a location when they came out with that technology. Because I know when my family and I were moving to St. Louis in 2008, I used MapQuest all the time, and I would print the maps and know all the houses that we're going to look at, because it was my job to find the house, because my husband was working 10 hours a day, who's already in St. Louis. So I had to go find the house, and so I would meet my realtor, and I used MapQuest, and I had every single house on my map of what I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And
that's
it was
cool.
fun, and I got to know St. Louis, too, because I was using a map. I wasn't using my phone, but...
Well, and AI is interesting, too, and I think I've told this to you before, but I still find it fascinating. I use Claude for a lot of different things, including gardening, but other stuff, too, that I need. I needed a profit and loss statement, blah, blah, blah. And there's this. But whenever I would talk about, something like it would be a new question, Claude would reference, like I asked about my tomatillo peppers, which are really a pain in the butt always to grow. They're so temperamental. They're such babies, and they just kind of whine all the time. You got to put two of them together so they have a partner, whatever. And it's like, gee whiz. And finally I asked, what's going on?
Peppers.
Right. And I asked a separate question about the tomatillo peppers. I said, what's going on with these? Because these leaves look weird, and the and the sheaths around the tomatillos are brown, not green, not what they normally look like. And Claude is like, yeah, that's okay. They look like they're doing all right. Probably a little too much sun. Put them in the shade, whatever. That's fine. But once you get these tomatillos, they'll go great with the other peppers that you have in your garden. And I'm thinking,
how'd it know?
Well, because I've talked to him or it
knows
about
you.
other peppers before. So it remembers stuff you've talked about
That's kind of
weeks ago.
Kind of cool.
It is kind of cool.
Yeah, that is kind of cool. You've sent me pictures of your garden, and I think eventually people are going to call that a Claude garden because of what you've done with your garden. I've seen pictures because you've sent them.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Yeah, I know. I look at my tomato plants, and it just makes me very sad. It really does. It's not even 10% of what you have in your garden.
No,
But I have these big pin oak trees, and it's competing for shade, and the pin oak tree is jealous of the garden, so it just totally masks it in shade, and it will not allow my tomato plants to grow.
Well, you learn a lot about that because people think tomatoes need a lot of sun. They really don't, but they also don't need a lot of shade, and so
Oh, so I was blaming it on the tree. That means I need to blame it on myself.
Well, no, I was. Yeah, they do. They need sun. I was actually having trouble. I grew a lot of volunteers this year. I mean, I'm talking about from seedlings that just kind of dropped off from the past when birds ate a tomato or something, and those really grew well. And the one I taped together with Gorilla Tape is
I know
still
this story very
producing more tomatoes for me. So it's kind of crazy, but it is a miracle, yeah. But anyway, all right. Well, Elizabeth Kaiser, what's going on this weekend on the Straight Lines
So we
show?
do have a deep dive into all the straits, and everybody talks about the Strait of Hormuz, but there's so much more than just the Strait of Hormuz, and that's what's fascinating to me. So I did get out the maps. I did get out the globe. This morning I just got out the globe, and I did use AI very effectively to put all that together and put a map together so that I could speak more effectively and speak more clearly in my show. So there's about a 30-minute segment on all of the, we're talking about the Marmara Sea, we're talking about the Black Sea, we're talking about the Aegean Sea that goes into the Mediterranean Sea and how that goes into the Arabian Sea and all these straits that really dictate basically the supply chain. So you've got Hormuz, which is the oil, and then all these straits that I just referenced, which is the Bosphorus, you've got the Dardanelles, and you've got the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and you've got the Suez Canal. You've got those other four straits, which actually carry the food. So you've got oil here, and you've got food here. And the reason I'm talking about it is because now the Houthis are starting to charge transit fees at the Bab el-Mandeb. If they continue charging transit fees and taking control of that particular strait, Turkey's now looking at the two straits right by Istanbul that they control. So it's a big geopolitical shift, and I'm really getting into the geopolitical. So
well, that works perfectly then with the Straight Lines.
Yeah, it does. I know.
With
Total
Elizabeth
coincidence. Spelled
Yeah.
a little differently. Thank you, Jamie.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the song, just in case you want to jam on it, just in case you like it.
Got it. Frequency, Kenneth?
What's the frequency, Kenneth?
Frequency. Okay, now I know.
There you go.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right, ladies
You just
and gentlemen,
elucidated that.
Right, we'll be tuning in at 8 o'clock for Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kaiser. Thanks again for wowing us with all the inside info, Elizabeth. We'll see you this weekend. This
Thank you,
is the Allman Report on Newstalk STL, a Fancy Friday and Common Sense Radio.
Conservative talk for St. Louis.
It's your patriotic right and duty.
The government needs to step up and do its job.
This is News Talk STL.
It's well-balanced conversation.
News, analysis, opinion.
Steve Allman leads. Allman enacted a data center moratorium. He doubled our parkland, built new roads, prioritized safe schools and streets, eliminated the county's real property tax. Allman for St. Charles County. Bill Eigel misleads. Eigel talks but didn't pay his property taxes, but voted to give tax credits to the company behind the St. Charles Data Center, and was rebuked by Trump's lawyer for scamming donors.
Paid for by the committee to elect Steve Ellman, Michael Summer Jr., Treasurer.
News Talk STL is celebrating our 5th birthday. And we're giving away a limited edition News Talk STL America 250 t-shirts. It's exclusive, it's collectible, and it could be yours. Just head to newstalkstl.com to register.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, News Talk.
Been listening since day one. Happy birthday to my talk station.
5 years, happy birthday.
News Talk STL.
News Talk STL. Happy birthday to us, and good luck to you.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Travis Wilson here, State Representative from District 106 in St. Charles, Missouri's first state capital. I wanted to remind everyone that we have a crucial primary election coming up on Tuesday, August 4th. No excuse, in-person voting has already begun, and I'd appreciate your vote to continue my service for the great people of St. Charles. For more information on early voting or to learn more about me and the important issues facing Missouri, visit me on Facebook at Wilson for St. Charles. Thank you, and may God continue to bless the state of Missouri.
Paid for by Wilson for St. Charles. Merle Schneider, Treasurer.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. The Allman Report, sponsored by Grasser Home Services.
It's Friday!
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Common Sense Radio. It's a fancy Friday here. The Allman Report on News Talk STL. Hey, so I told you earlier in the week, and part of this is an outgrowth of my conversation with Jim Carafano. And, you know, we talked about Spain specifically, mainly because there was a star on the Spain soccer team who was wearing a Make Spain Great Again hat at their victory parade in Spain. And it was interesting because I asked Jim about that. I'm like, well, that's interesting because I always thought Spain was liberal. And he said, no. The people there are not liberal, especially as time goes on. They have become much, much more conservative because of the actions of their left-wing government. And their government has really let them down in Spain to the point where they are very, very frustrated. It's almost just as like it was pre-Trump. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. He goes, the Spain people are technically very conservative. And if there was an election held today, the left-wing government would be cast out. So somehow what happened is there was a kind of a manufacturing of some of these coalitions in Spain, and the left-wing government managed to kind of come out on top because other parties watered it down. It's kind of like having a slate of candidates and having a couple who are taking votes away from the other. So the left wing kind of almost lucked into it because of the varieties of parties involved. So fast forward to now, and similarly to why the Democrats wanted an open border and why Democrats wanted a bunch of foreigners and illegals into this country is because they were running out of people who bought their crap, and specifically black people and other people. So they needed to infuse some fresh faces into the United States of America, whether they're legal or not legal, and also, of course, ply them with government welfare and housing and food and everything else, like they did with the Somalians in Minnesota, which was clearly an effort by the Democrat Party in Minnesota to manufacture a base of people who would continually funnel money into their campaigns and also vote for them because they were basically given small businesses and leering centers and daycares and that kind of thing. So it was a plot. And it really has worked very well for the Democrats up until, of course, recently, because that was their goal. Black people are slowly but surely starting to be disenchanted with the Democrats. And the Democrats know that, so they have to kind of infuse a lot more people. Why do you think the Democrats are so crazy about border enforcement or ICE agents or anything else? Because the Trump administration is taking away the very people that keep them afloat. Illegal aliens, registered to vote, doing whatever that keep them afloat. That's the only reason why a sitting U.S. senator would go and have a margarita with a rapey, wife-beaty illegal alien. So that's the only reason. Because why do you think they're all standing? Why do you think you're seeing black politicians standing in front of ICE facilities? Because their black constituents are getting sick of them and aren't voting for them anymore. So the black politicians who are still kind of in lockstep with the white liberals are also needing people to vote for them because black people are starting to say, hey, sister, you know what? You're wrong. You're not doing anything for me. So sister wants to go and get a Mexican to vote for her now. That's the only plausible reason you could possibly imagine why black politicians are part of this whole anti-ICE crusade. You've got to be, you can see it. This is so simple to see what's going on. So now onward to Spain. Spain also is realizing, the Spanish government is realizing that they are losing a grip on the mentality of the Spanish people. I'm talking about the Spanish people who are actually Spanish. And they know that. So what they're doing is the same thing, except this is a little more dramatic. What they're doing is the same thing that the Democrats have been doing, and for that matter, for a while there, a long time ago, Republicans. They're opening the border and letting a bunch of foreigners in who are never going to leave and who eventually are going to vote. This thing happening in Spain is a little more dramatic because it's happening like in 2 days. But we have also seen this happening to a smaller degree, even though Fox News was the only one covering it, where they had people who were coming in by the thousands across the border every day during the Biden administration. And at some point, there were Republicans who were also pushing forward a kind of border control bill that actually allowed for 3,000 a day to come in. That's again what they're thinking. So in Spain, these people are never going to leave. They will probably be given all kinds of government money and housing and everything else. And yeah, the military was dispatched, but it's clearly, as you could see, they're not doing really anything. And so this was purposeful, as far as I'm concerned, on the part of the Spanish government to have all these people fluxing in, because they're coming in by the tens of thousands. And you can turn an election on tens of thousands. And so what's happening is they're acting like, oh, this is terrible. We're going to, and all of a sudden, though, you see that they're now providing intake centers for them now. And they're providing a landing space for these Moroccans who are all coming in, and that's what they're doing. So they're not turning them around and putting them off on boats or doing whatever. And they're not going to deport them either. So Spain is stuck with these people. The left-wing government will romance these people, and they will become a permanent voting bloc for the left-wing government that has been fearful of losing its grip on the Spanish people. And this all is an outgrowth, again, of that conversation with Jim, who enlightened me to the difference between the left-wing government and the people of Spain. And, of course, the left-wing government knows they're losing that grip on the people of Spain, so they're taking a page out of the Democrat Party playbook and just simply flinging open the doors of the border, and these people will replace the votes they're losing. That's the plot. So there you go. And wait till they hear how Moroccans say, we built Spain, right? Or some Muslims say, or Somalians say, we built Michigan or Minnesota or this country. We're already hearing this is a Haitian migrant. Here you go. To the United States of America.
And Haitian, they work hard. They're always on time at their work. They don't take no days off, no days out. They're always there. And we built America. So I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, Chicky Poo, you didn't even build Haiti. We built America, but that's the attitude of these guys. You know why? Because the media and all these other little liberals, especially white ones, always love these little immigrant plush toys, and they convince them that you're the reason why America's great. You know why? Because diversity is our strength. And that's what they tell these people. And these people get these egos going for them to the point where they're actually utter the words, we built America. And you're a Haitian. And again, look it up. You didn't even build Haiti. So see you later. All right, coming up, I've got some great news from my buddy Mike Marino down at Santino's Cigars and Cocktails. He's going to be on in a second here. Big breakthrough over there. Jerry Seinfeld is at it again because he's Jewish, and people pick on him at his concerts. And he always has a really great response, and I'll have that for you on the other side of this, too. This is Common Sense Radio. It's the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
The radical left let crime and drugs pour into our nation, and they let biological men into girls' sports. But here in Missouri, if there's a problem, we fix it. That's why Ann Wagner's fixing the mess the radical left made and delivering for us. Wagner voted to ban biological men from competing in girls' sports, and she voted to fund the police and provide more resources for Border Patrol agents, keeping our families, communities, and children safe. And Ann Wagner didn't stop there. In Congress, Wagner passed the largest working-class tax cut in American history, kept big government out of our business, protected our way of life, and ensured our communities remain safe. That's why Ann Wagner's endorsed by the Missouri Farm Bureau and Missouri Fraternal Order of Police.
Vote Ann Wagner for Congress on August 4th.
I'm Ann Wagner, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Ann Wagner for Congress.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Gemini Wealth Group, the GeminiWealthGroup.com. These are really exceedingly helpful people. I call them the guardians of your golden years galaxy. 5 of them with a combined more than 150 years experience in investiture, in adequate diversification of your investments, in planning, and I'm talking about far-sighted planning, in also making sure that all your basic meat and potatoes things are taken care of, like your housing and your medical bills and all that kind of stuff. And then also the fun stuff, like, well, do you want to travel the world, or what are you going to do? Are you going to give some money to the grandkids, or how are you going to do this? And I'm telling you, a long-term goal, a long-term view is very, very essential. And when you have a team like the Gemini Wealth Group behind you and with you and walking along with you into your 20, 30, 40 years of retirement, you're going to be set. The diversification of the investments is a pretty big deal and an important one, too. And that's just not scattering your investments. That's taking a really strong look, because they have a really special way of investing that's going to create, and that's their goal, a situation where you're just simply living off your dividends and before you even touch the main part of your investment. So that's really super cool, and they'll take care of you. They're longtime supporters of free, common sense, conservative radio. It also means that I want to make sure you go to them and show them how much you appreciate they're making it possible for you to listen to free, common sense, conservative radio. The GeminiWealthGroup.com, the GeminiWealthGroup.com.
When decisions matter most, experience isn't optional. Tim Whitney has spent nearly 24 years serving Jefferson County through the Sheriff's Office. As a former SWAT commander, he has led under pressure, made critical decisions, and understood what it means to be prepared when leadership matters most. Today, as Undersheriff and Chief Financial Officer, Tim helps lead hundreds of employees, manages one of the county's largest budgets, and protects taxpayers with conservative accountability. Tim Whitney brings the kind of real-world executive experience Jefferson County needs in its next county executive.
I'm Tim Whitney. Jefferson County isn't just where I've served. It's where my wife and I are raising our family and where we've chosen to build our life. I'm running for county executive because I believe our county's future matters. Together we can support responsible growth, strengthen public safety, protect taxpayers, and preserve the character that makes Jefferson County home. I'd be honored to earn your vote.
Paid for by Friends of Tim Whitney, Heather Missy Treasurer.
When Donald Trump needs conservative votes to help pass his agenda for Missouri, Representative Tricia Burns never answers the call. Tricia Burns has missed 370 votes. Burns is bucking President Trump's priorities. Burns did not vote to stop DEI initiatives, prevent China from owning Missouri land, defund Planned Parenthood, and Burns did not vote to ban boys from girls' sports. Tricia Burns not showing up for Missouri and President Trump. Instead, Tricia Burns spends her time pulling pranks on the suicide prevention hotline. Yes, you heard that right. Tricia Burns lied to the police and staged a fake suicide emergency. She sent a series of messages to the hotline and said she, quote, had a gun to her head, end quote. When she got caught, she said there'd be no consequences because she's a politician. By August 4th, vote to show Tricia Burns that there are consequences to being bad at your job.
Let's Go Brandon Pack paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Chris Foss, Treasurer.
Why has Steph's Pizza become the place to go for St. Louis-style pizza, appetizers, salads, and pastas? One taste and you'll know. Dine-in, pickup, delivery, even DoorDash. Locally owned and operated with legendary pizza and a new location in Lake St. Louis at 111 Palm Fort Trail. In St. Peters, St. Charles, and the original Stephanitas in O'Fallon on Veterans Memorial Parkway. Steph's Pizza is proud to be part of the News Talk STL family. Check them out at stephspizza.com. And remember, tonight's a good night for Steph's Pizza.
Tim Jones here to introduce you to your new favorite roofing company, Corel Roofing. There were 4 major storms last year. Did your roof take a hit? Do you even know? Most homeowner insurance policies require claims to be filed within 1 year, so time's running out for a closer look. At Corel Roofing Company, you get a local roofing specialist who will advocate for you every step of the way. Give yourself peace of mind. Schedule your roof inspection today with Corel Roofing at CorelRoofingCo.com. That's CorellRoofingCo.com.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
The story behind the story. 400 ready to watch the newest Batman movie. The theater became a killing field.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. The Allman Report, sponsored by Stars Gourmet Food and Wine Shop. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
I want a girl with a mind like a diamond. I want a girl who knows what's best. I want a girl with shoes that cut and eyes that burn like cigarettes.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Common Sense Radio. It's a fancy Friday for all of you people out there. Greg is pointing out on the Facebook page that it looks like Apple stock is down 10% right now. It's kind of crazy. It's probably driving Apple people crazy. That's a lot when you're Apple. And you've invested in Apple. So I don't know what that is. And Greg says their quarterly report came out, whatever, and that might be it. I don't know. I don't know anything about this stuff. Hey, by the way, Kathleen says, seeing Jerry Seinfeld live at Caesar's Palace was one of my favorite experiences ever. Yeah. So he does, and Caesar's Palace, I've never been there before. I've always wanted to go. I've never been to Vegas. Johnny, have you been to Vegas before?
On my 30th birthday, and I'm about to turn 50.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little out of date.
Golly, I would. That's one place. I mean, I would love. A lot of people I've talked to say, "Oh, I don't want to go to Vegas." I'm like, I'd love to go to Vegas.
My mom recently went, and she's been going since the 80s.
Really?
And she hated it.
Really?
She said it sucked. Yeah.
Oh, huh. I don't know. I think there's a lot I could like about it. I think, it says I see pools, drinks, and a lot of neon lights, and that makes me happy.
What you didn't anticipate is the Chinese tourists who are pushing their children in strollers in the middle of the night because it's normal time for them.
I guess so. All right. So Jerry Seinfeld does his concerts, and because he's Jewish, all the pro-Palestine people, not all of them, but some of them show up in his concerts, and it's kind of like you'd never go to a Dave Chappelle concert and be in the audience and start talking about the KKK, would you? Right? But apparently it's okay because if you're Jewish, you can be abused all day long by these insufferable anti-Semites and the so-called pro-Palestinian, even though Palestine doesn't exist. I love John Fetterman's thing. You saw that yesterday when he was interviewed by some pro-Hamas organization. He's like, I love to see Hamas leaders killed by the Israelis. It was funny. Anyway, but Jerry Seinfeld always has a really good comeback for these people. I feel bad about this, though, because Jerry Seinfeld's only real crime, apparently, is being Jewish. And in this country, when you have people who are bred to act in the way that the KKK acted long ago, it's really kind of disappointing. But that's what they are. They're no different than the KKK. You're not really in any kind of geopolitical or geographical intellectual conversation. All your pro-Hamas stuff and pro-Palestine stuff is really just anti-Jewish. That's what it is. It's not because Palestine doesn't exist. So you might as well be pro-Keebler land because it doesn't exist. So really what it is it's code for being anti-Jew. But, I'll tell you, Seinfeld really did a great job with these guys, these hecklers.
Here's the other thing I think you need to go back and tell who's ever running your organization. We just gave more money to a Jew.
They had to buy tickets to get in, you know.
Cannot be a good plan for you. That's not what you want. That's the whole problem.
Yeah, honestly. So, but of course, Jerry Seinfeld has to deal with this all the time. Sometimes people even accost him in the street while he's walking around, and they try to see if they could get him and do all this kind of stuff. And I don't know about you, but you know, in America, that shouldn't happen. That's terrorism. I mean, it's not about free speech or whatever. You're basically attacking somebody because of their ethnicity. And that's all it is. And I'm not fooled by any people out there who are all there pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas, whatever. I'm not fooled by or any of these conservatives who keep on harping about how Iran is just a war for Israel. I mean, I know what you're saying. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, I am okay and always have been with people who have an issue with this Iran thing. I get it. But if you're calling this a war for Israel, I kind of know already what you're saying there. So that's just how it goes. But yeah, I just feel dirty when I see someone like Jerry Seinfeld having to put up with something being yelled at because of his ethnicity. That just shouldn't happen in the United States of America, but it's happening quite a bit. I mean, even mayors of New York are doing it, heckling Jews, just in a different way. But you guys have a wonderful and blessed rest of your weekend. Johnny, thank you so much. And coming up, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for listening to the show, Tony Colombo and company. So here endeth the 3 Martini Lunch. Have a good one.
Republican Chris Sander is the true fiscal conservative running for state representative. Chris Sander says it's time to stop Travis Wilson giving away hundreds of millions of dollars in state tax credits to special interests, billions of tax dollars given away to private developers of empty office buildings in St. Louis and sports stadiums in Kansas City. Chris Sander will work to bring our tax dollars home to St. Charles. We need a representative in our corner, not another lobbyist for St. Louis or Kansas City. Please vote for Chris Sander, Republican for state representative, the true fiscal conservative.
Paid for by Sander for Missouri. Patricia Van Dyne, Treasurer. Your trees do a lot for you. Shade, beauty, curb appeal, but are they safe? Clever Tree Service has been protecting St. Louis homes and landscapes for over 20 years. Pruning, trimming, removal, stump grinding, even 24/7 emergency storm service. Fully insured, eco-friendly, and always focused on you. From Kirkwood to Chesterfield, Webster Groves to Wildwood, your neighbors trust Clever Tree Service. Visit clevertreeservice.com for your free quote today.